Hey guys, in this video we're going to be taking a look at the LG Optimus L90. This phone is primarily exclusive to T-Mobile, and you can get it for an outstanding price of under $100. Yeah, that's right. You can get this for under $5 a month for 2 years, and that is the enticing feature of this phone. It's not necessarily a feature, it's just one of the enticing, I suppose, advantages of getting it. So a quick rundown of the specs. It does have a 4.7-inch QHD display, not Q as in 1440p, it is 540p, so it's not QHD as in Quad HD, it's just QHD as in Sub HD. So it does have a PPI of approximately 234, so not the best display resolution or not the best pixel density, but it does fairly well. Colors are somewhat accurate, reproduction is alright, and screen sharpness is pretty solid, especially for the price. It is powered by a significantly powerful 1.2 GHz quad-core processor. It delivers mid-range to upper mid-range performance, and it's really nice to see a quad-core processor in this phone. Although it's not the highest of voltage, it still will do for most circumstances. The phone also has an average 1 GB of RAM, which is alright, and it also does have 8 GB of ROM or storage internally. Fortunately, it does have micro SD card support, so you can apply an external card in order to increase your storage capacity, which is very beneficial, especially if you have a lot of music, movies, and things of that nature on your phone. You'd want to expand your storage, obviously. And on the back, you have a mediocre 5-megapixel camera. It's not going to wow anybody, especially if you're used to pretty good smartphone cameras. This isn't going to blow you away. And it does have a single LED flash. It also has an LG logo here, and a T-Mobile sort of stamp on the bottom. We also have a speaker here. Albeit it is small, it is actually fairly adequate. It's not that bad, actually. I actually don't find it to be that bothersome. I can listen to music on it, although not that often, really. But it's pretty good as far as a speakerphone is concerned, and it does get the job done. And one of the key selling points is the back. This is self-resistant to scratches, which means that if you do happen to scratch it, the scratch will fade or dissipate over a certain amount of time, maybe in a few minutes, or 10 minutes or something like that. And it does work. I mean, if you scratch with a key, although I don't really recommend you do so, it will disappear after a certain amount of time. Now this is cool because it's only on a few of LG's phones. It's notably on the LG G Flex, which is a $600 phone, so it's nice to see if there's something like this on a phone like this. And it does work, and you don't really need a case per se, maybe for screen protection, but for the backing you're pretty safe. So I suppose this is an appropriate transition for build quality. Now build quality is pretty good. I wouldn't say it's spectacular, but it feels nice in the hand. You do have a bit of creakiness here and there, but you know, it's nothing, it's a bit dismissible actually, it's not that bad. You also have a nice front panel, although it's not fingerprint resistant by any stretch of the imagination. As you can see, it does gather and collect fingerprints very, very easily. So I guess that can be a downside if you're not really into that kind of thing and cleaning your display every now and then, which I'm sure that nobody loves, unless you're a germaphobe or something like that. I don't know what the term is for those people. So beneath the display, we have 3 buttons here, 2 of them being capacitive. These don't light up in the dark, by the way, so that kind of sucks. But of course, to keep the costs down, they can't really afford that. You also have a button here, just a home button, or whatever the Android equivalent of it is, just really a home button. Can't really call it much else. And on this side, this is probably the worst thing hardware-wise. This is the sleep-wake button. Can't see it? Yeah, that's because it's recessed. It's very difficult to sort of pick it out, and when you finally do, it doesn't really budge. It's really difficult to click, you don't even hear a click. And it's just overall not a very good sleep-wake button. As you can see, I'm trying to press it. I'm pressing it every time, but it's only registering 50% of the time. I don't know if this is exclusive to this unit or it's just universal on all LG Optimus L90s, but it's really something that can be improved. I really don't like this. See, I'm pressing it right now, and of course it's only registering 50% of the time, so yeah, major downside there. So overall, build quality is alright. It's not spectacular. It's good, I'd say. It's good. And it feels like a phone. It's actually a nice size. It is fairly big for an Android. Well, not really for an Android phone, but for a phone at this price, you typically see those small 4-inch Samsung devices. So it's nice to see that LG went a little bit larger with a rather budget-friendly device. So that's good to see. Alright, so let's move on to the software of the device. Now this is Apex Launcher. If you want to have an alternative home screen to what LG provides, you can download a launcher like Apex and make it look like the stock Android launcher. Let's choose a different one because this is not what it ships with. So let's go to, man, this LG interface is so odd. Okay, so this is what the stock LG launcher looks like, or the home screen. It's alright, it's somewhat bland, I'm not really a big fan of this. The icons look somewhat dated in my opinion, and I'm just overall not a big fan of it. Of course, there are opinions exist for a reason, but actually, no, that sounded faux philosophical. It didn't really mean much by it. But it's alright. I'm not a huge fan of the launcher, so I use Apex Launcher instead, and I do recommend that for most people. If we go into the app drawer, you can see, here we go. It's alright, it's your standard, typical LG launcher, I guess. I'm sure that the newer phones like the LG G3 have an updated user interface for the launcher, but this is what you're stuck with for the L90. So here we go, it's alright, but you know, I'm not a huge fan of this. If we want to look at the user interface in general, let's just do this one again. So, there we go. So fortunately, you do have the Play Store. Of course, it's an Android device, but it's nice to see that it does have it in all its glory. Play Store is very good. It's the second best app store, of course, behind iOS's app store, but that's, of course, opinion. Not really, but, you know. Overall, it's alright. I mean, applications work fine. I mean, it has a 1.2 GHz quad-core processor, so it's not that bad. In fact, it's actually rather good, considering that there are a lot of low-voltage dual-core processors in these phones nowadays, which is totally unacceptable in 2014. Just to give you a brief idea of what LG's software encompasses, let's take a look at the Dialer app. And yep, we've teleported back to 2008. It looks very, very dated. I don't like this at all. And yeah, so you're gonna feel sometimes like you're a few years in the past when you're, you know, going through the operating system, because applications like the Dialer just look plain dated. They look like they're straight out of 2008. And yeah, major bummer. Wow, that sounded really unnatural. But surprisingly, and I do have to give LG major props again, man, I'm conflicting myself, but it does run Android 4.4.2, which is amazing. It's not too amazing in the grand scheme of things, but it runs KitKat, which is great. This is accessibility, by the way, because this button is so bad that it's best to just have accessibility options. But anyhow, it's great that it ships with 4.4.2. I do appreciate that. I'm appreciating things more than I should, but it's great that it does ship with it. Although the most recent version of Android is 4.4.4, I mean, as far as it being a non-Nexus device, it's running a fairly current version of Android, but just KitKat. And only 1 in 10 Android devices run KitKat, so you're going to be in the upper 10%, which is pretty good. And you have this cool Easter egg too. I forgot how to. Okay, there we go. There we go. That's fun for a couple minutes until we realize what we're doing, and then we close or exit. Let's go back to Apex Launcher. Guys, always choose Apex Launcher. That's my thing, although it's not really part of the phone itself. Well, it is. It's part of the software, but yeah, that's just my advice. If you get anything from this video, download an external launcher or home screen. You won't regret it, most likely. So LG embedded a few cool features into the OS, including one-handed operation, gesture control, and also tap to unlock, or knock-on, as LG calls it. It's nice because knock-on's on usually LG's flagships, you know, the G2, the G3, and it's nice that it's on a phone of a lesser caliber like this, and it does have knock-on, and that's nice. I mean, I've never seen the purpose for it. It seems like it's overhyped, although it's not too hyped. LG sort of prides itself on knock-on. I don't really get why, but yeah, like things like this. This sort of looks kind of dated to me, if I can. Just making a point for no reason, but yeah, that just looks a bit dated to me. Some people like this as a sort of skeuomorphism, although it's not really, because I've never seen a Switch that looks like that. But yeah, I just don't like LG's skin on Android. It's opinionated, of course, but I feel like a few people will share my opinion. So I know that the software isn't stock Android, and I can accept that. I'm just not a huge fan of the software overall. This is personal preference, so I can't really rate this. But it's fluid overall, you rarely encounter lag, and that's nice. It's really smooth. It's not the most smooth, you will see some dropped frames here and there, but overall, it is really nice. It's a fairly enjoyable Android experience, if you can get past the LG skin. And you can partially cover that with a launcher, say it with me. But yeah, display is alright, it can be improved, but it's far from the worst display out there. I'd say it's one of the better displays on a smartphone right now, especially for the price. Again, I keep factoring that in because it is very important. The price that T-Mobile is offering it for is outstanding. So the camera's alright, it's not the best, it's far from the best. You saw how long that took. Of course I had the flash on, but really don't count on this being a very good camera phone. If you're going to use it for a camera, you're better off going with something like the Moto G or something. But granted, that is twice the expense of this. But yeah, it's not a great camera phone. I mean, for the price, it's not terrible, but it's just not great. I mean, my iPod Touch has a better camera than it. It's a 5 megapixel sensor. Of course, megapixels don't matter. And you can see that because the camera optics are mediocre at best. As far as video quality is concerned, it actually shoots in 1080p, which is pretty outstanding. Of course, its resolution, although it is 1080p, it can still look like utter trash, and it sort of does to some extent. It's not a great camcorder either. You won't be shooting home movies with this, I highly doubt that. So the camera is overall mediocre. So gaming performance is pretty good. It's not terrible. Of course, it does throttle after maybe 30 minutes of playing games, because of course Android's operating system, or Android itself, tends to throttle gaming performance after a certain amount of time. I don't know if it's merely software implementation or if it's just the hardware overheating, or it's probably a combination of the two, but gaming performance is okay. It's not going to blow you away, but you can play games like Asphalt 8 with relative ease. It's not going to be the best, but it's going to be far from the worst, and that's pretty good considering that this is $99. So calling is pretty good. I mean, I sounded somewhat muffled on the receiver's end, and overall it was alright. It's nothing exemplary, but it's not terrible. It makes for a pretty good phone. Battery life is good. It's pretty good, actually. I was surprised. It has better battery life at the moment than my Nexus 4 does. The Nexus 4 was an Android flagship phone from 2012. It's overall more powerful than this is, but then again, it was twice as expensive, no, 3 times as expensive, which was still a bargain back then. $300 for the Nexus 4 was insane, but yeah, my Nexus 4's battery life is pretty bad, and this beats it, so that is saying something. It is fairly good battery life, I would say that, and if battery life is a concern, it shouldn't be, because I did not have any issues. So overall, who's this phone for? Man, that was a cringeworthy rhetorical question. My answer is, it is for anybody on a budget, really. If you've seen this phone and you're considering it, go ahead and buy it. I am pretty sure you will not be disappointed. And if you happen to be, consider the price. Consider that you're only paying, what, $5 a month, which is pretty awesome. So that is my take on it overall, guys. What do you think if you have this phone, and are you going to get it if you're considering buying it? I recommend it. It's a wholehearted recommendation from me, if that means anything. Thank you for watching this rather long review. If you stuck until the end, I'd love to know in the comments section. I know this wasn't the most interesting of videos, but I thought I'd give my take on this. This is the LG Optimus L90. A very, very good phone at a very, very good price. Well, that was good. Only thing, this button, man, I hope it doesn't happen to you. I hope this is just this unit in particular, but I don't know. Maybe it's widespread. If you have this, let me know if your button is fidgety. I'd love to know, but hopefully it's just an exclusive issue with this phone. So for its discounted price, I'd give this phone a 9 out of 10. If it was retail at $228, which it was previously, I'd give this a 7.5 out of 10, because you could probably find better for that price, but at this price you will not find anything better, and you can count on that. Thank you for watching, guys. If you liked it, I'd really appreciate it if you'd give this video a thumbs up. Let me know that you liked it. Yes, that's definitely what the thumbs up button does. Thank you guys for watching. Catch you later. Or not. Take care, guys.